Hello, chess chicos, chess chicas. Round 12 recap. Oh my god, what a drama, what a thriller, what an emotional roller coaster. Just when we thought that this match was easing into the slow rhythm of draws and slight boredom, if you will, the fireworks just went off and they actually exploded the entire city, to use a very, very poor analogy. So let's see what happened. So we are kicking off proceedings with the Colle because, hey, let's throw some random weird stuff into the equation that hasn't been there before, says Ding, because that's apparently the strategy that's been working out for him really well. CD, not the move I'm going to recommend in my upcoming d4, d5 course for black, by the way, but that was not a criticism. Queen c7, c3, and bishop d7 was uncorked by Jan Nepomniachtchi. I have no idea what on earth is going on, especially because he followed it up with bishop g4. Now, I tried to figure out what on earth was this whole bishop d7 shebang about, and one thing that I realized was, I think I did anyway, the knight c6 could be met by bishop b5 for what it's worth. I don't know how good it is. Quite frankly, I would be more than happy to face this with black. Or even with BC, I don't know, it just doesn't look to me like anything, even if a knight lands on e5. But perhaps the other point of bishop d7 was that if you go bishop g4 in this position, then I can kick, and then maybe give a check, and then pile up on these boys, and then g4 is meaningful. And so he wanted to basically lose a tempo, wait for white to castle, and then play bishop g4, because now to repeat the same shebang would also lose a tempo for white, plus g4 is a bit more committal with the king castled already here. I don't know, really weird stuff. The engine immediately chucked a question mark at it, but yeah, I don't want to go by the engine too heavily. Anyway, stock standard stuff, nothing to mention here. Nepo equalized easily, no problems whatsoever. And here he played the very interesting castles, which of course stirred the board up big time because it allowed Ding to take on f6. And the commentators, he mentioned the fact, I think it was Tanya, that taking on f6 seems like the move to play if you would like to play for a win, which Ding kind of needed to do. But I dislike this move a lot because I feel like the two bishops are far more valuable than the slightly damaged pawn structure. The pawn on f6 is a boss, it covers e5, so knight e5 is not coming. I find it very difficult to fathom what white could realistically play for here, whereas black's play with king h8, rook g8, and even the occasional f5 just appears to be too easy. And f5 was indeed played, h3 was played. Quite interestingly here, and I don't think this was mentioned, but maybe I missed it, f4 is a move with hg, fg, and an absolutely incredible pawn structure with bishop takes and then queen d2. And quite frankly, this of course would have suited Nepo with the idea of a perpetual check, by the way, in case you are wondering why I'm hanging a rook. Yeah, it was an interesting possibility. I don't recall hearing the commentators mentioning it, but maybe I missed it. I was, yeah, paying only little attention or none at all at times to the interview because I was otherwise engaged. But yeah, interesting stuff there. Anyway, h3 takes was played, king knight e7 was played, knight h5 was played. And what I want to tell you about this position is that a lot of people would think, especially on lower levels, that in this position it is white is attacking on the king side and nothing is further away from the truth. White has no attack on the king side whatsoever, and white is facing this king h8, rook g8 issue, after which it's going to be black calling the shots on the king side. The only way to disturb this balance is to play this absolutely gung-ho gangsbusters move g4, which I really dislike, but again, it feels like Ding needed to play in this spirit to keep the game alive. Rook g8 was played, very logical. King h1, once again, very logical, moving the king out of the firing line of the rook, and knight g6. Now, this is a beautiful, remarkable pawn sacrifice. I really love it. The idea is that after gf5, knight h4, and queen e3. Now it does look like for the first time white has serious attacking chances associated with the idea of queen h6 and f6 and then Matutsky on g7, Matutsky on h7. It is looking very grim. But who strikes first? Rook g2, queen h6, rook h2 check, king g1, rook g8 check, king f1. And yeah, it took a fair while to even the commentators to find out the genius idea, which was bishop e7. In a similar position, Fabio also proved the bishop e5 idea to be correct about holding a mate on h7, by the way, which was also insane. But now, unfortunately, I don't recall it. But bear with me. This is amazing. Bishop e7, f6. And you go like, hello? How is black not mated here? And I show you how, because it's absolutely beautiful. And by the way, finding this line, given that you needed to start thinking about it here, is insane. Just sheer insanity. So yeah, instead of that, one more time. So take, knight h4, queen e3, rook g2, rook check, king e check, king f1, bishop e7, and the genius move, knight f5. Oh my god. That is just an absolute delight. And a bomb of a move. The idea being that after bishop takes f5, black has check. And all of a sudden, the black king got mated in the corner because the king got deprived of its only escaping move. Sensational stuff. Really, really cool stuff. And this was the part of the game when things started to go to Nepo's favor. So bishop c2 was played, knight h4 was played, queen e3 and rook g6, not only denying queen h6 but also preparing to bring the other rook into the game. Now the engineer still claims that the position is dead even, but I would hate to play this stuff with white. Absolutely would hate it. In this position, gh again is possible, rook g2, and if I go for the same shebang, it's even worse because now the queen on c4 mate is already on because the bishop has abandoned c4 by playing back to c2. So this is even worse. This is completely unplayable. And so Ding played rook g1, very sensible, f4. Now this again adds a little bit of extra spice to the action because now the rook is beginning to hang, although queen d3 covers it up. And then queen e7 sliding across was played. Rook e1, queen g5. Nepo is bringing all the guns to the king side, building up the attack, playing very, very much with gusto. I really like what he's doing here. Awesome style, awesome play. And again, it's very noteworthy that the engine here still claims 0.12, whereas Ding already felt here that he was in trouble, which is why he tried this c4 breakout attempt with the idea of occupying the long diagonal. Here, however, having obtained an extra pawn, Nepo simply could have played b5. In fact, he did. And after a4, this is where things have gone a little bit sideways because it appears to be so logical to just play a6 and hang on to those pawns. But before we go on to that, let's have a look at what's the story with this bishop rook correlation here, because this looks like a juicer that is hanging. So bishop takes g6 is no bueno because after hg the bishop gets trapped, knight even gets trapped on h5. Wowzers. But then you go like, hang on, knight g3 takes, and now the knight got trapped on h4, didn't it? No, it didn't. Because now we have got queen d5 check, and it is black who is going to laugh last, because now we are going to jump in with f3, and that's going to be absolute carnage. So in this position, it's better not to pull back. d5, e5 is playable, and then knight g3 changes the landscape slightly, because now the queen can no longer jump to d5. See how beautiful chess is. But even here, black remains on top after take b4. Let's say queen c1. You can see the genius behind b4 is that the queen can no longer cover the third rank, because if queen e3, then I can simply take, and yet again, geometry is a really awesome side study for you to conduct if you are interested in chess, because you will find beauties like this. And this time round, it's a skewer that decides the game. If after b4 I take h4, then we have got bc, hg, cb, and with c3 pawn rolling in, the connected passes will prove to be the decisive force. This is unplayable. The game is over again. So yeah, that was the reason why Ding could not take g6, had to play a4. And once again, I am a firm believer that after a6 this game would have not gone the way it did, because after b4 something very odd happened. Actually, multiple very odd things started happening. One was that Nepo very clearly seemed to have lost the plot. Now, I should rather just say that he seems to have lost control. Gradually, he kept on playing faster and faster and playing worse and worse moves. So after b4, queen c4, he almost instantly played rook g8, which by no means is the most obvious move, because we have got now knight f3 countering the rooks by playing knight f3. I mean that we are attacking their rooks whilst our rook is hanging as well. Of course, queen c6 is on with a triple attack, which is not something that you would see every day. But remember that one piece can only take one at a time. And after queen a8, rook g8, it turns out that black is going to keep on munching around here. And that was where Robert Hess came up with a fabulous endgame variation that ended with b3, securing the pawn on b2 and playing bishop a3. But now it avoids me how the queens and rooks came off the board. Anyway, so this was definitely a possibility that Nepo should have, really should have gone for, and he had plenty of time on the clock, and he just chucked in this b4 at rook g8 without too much thinking. And if you look at what happened, what's going to happen now in the game is exactly what I tell my students never to do. And I know that it sounds pathetic that I bring it up in connection with the way how Nepo played, but in the end of the day, certain rules apply to everyone. And my favorite one is the don't go backwards. Now, on that note, bishop b8, of course, doesn't fall into that category because the bishop needed to remain on the diagonal. That being said, knight f5 was possible here. An absolutely insane move. The idea being that after gf, queen h5, we are threatening with mate here. And if rook g6, we can just go check here and take with this pawn, threatening this checkmate, and threatening f3 with mate here and mate here. And that is just too much. White is dead, so that's not playable. Whereas if I take with the bishop, then after ef5, all of a sudden the rook defends the bishop and black is winning, or at least is cruising towards a much more advantageous position. Yeah, that was missed too. So bishop b8, queen b7, rook h6. Slightly odd. And he, Nepo, went rook f8, almost a tempo, which is a chess expression for instantly without thinking. And here too, he had an ingenious resource to stay in the game, which frankly I would never ever think of, which was f3, queen f7, and knight g2. Holy smokes. And the idea is positional. It is to play knight f4 to finally eliminate that dang defender on h5, which so powerfully and annoyingly stops all the h5 threats. So knight g2 hits the rook, hits knight f4, so to speak. And in fact, best move here is the second exchange. And I think I would prefer to play this with white now. But objectively speaking, this should be some kind of a dynamic equilibrium. Whereas if I move the rook, I don't think this is recommendable because of knight f4 problems. And now h3 is hanging, h5 is hanging. Yeah, this is very non-pretty. Let's have a look at the line. He takes, queen takes. And after queen takes, we have got a Matutsky like this. That was not bad. Wowzers. So yeah, that was the point when Nepo started dropping the ball. He had knight f5 here. He then had, instead of rook f8, f3. He plays rook f8. And after queen b4, he went queen d8. And that's just a complete undoing of everything that he had built up in the first 30 moves. And now it's a complete reset. But now it is white who is up a pawn. So it's not exactly a complete reset. We have gone back from +5 to -2, not to 0. And yeah, he never managed to recover from this debacle. And the vast majority of these moves from a4 for black, so I should rather say from b4 to here, were played at a very, very, very rapid pace, even by Nepo's standards. He just completely collapsed mentally, and he denied it, or he said that these things just happen, that sometimes you just, you know, lose a game. But it just was very visible that he just could not handle this position, started playing way too fast even for his own style, and boy, is he paying the price, man. Queen b4, and then adding, and then knight g6. Like, look at that. He went rook f8, queen d8, knight g6. Just so sad to watch all that beautifully built up attack to unbuild and go back to zilch. Still within the realm of holdable though. But now he goes back to h4, rook e2, and he just uncooked f5 out of nowhere. f5. According to the engine, there are at least 3 different moves here that hold an easy draw. And I know that it's easy to talk from behind the engine. But boy, when you are playing for a world championship title, and you have got queen g5, bishop d6, rook g8, and none of these moves yield any advantage whatsoever to white, like none, despite the pawn advantage. And then we play f5, going from 0.3 to +5. Hello? It is just absolutely unfathomable. I don't remember the last time I've seen such a spectacular collapse in a perfectly unwarranted situation in a world championship stage. It is unreal. And after rook e6, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing, because after fg d5, black gets mated before white does. Now we have to play bishop e5, rook e5, and that's all she wrote. Absolute shocker. I can't possibly fathom why he would play f5 here. I was watching it live and I'm like, what have you done, bud? So sad. Not so much because I'm a Nepo supporter or because I'm a Ding supporter, but this did not, to me it felt like this game didn't deserve this outcome and the way how it happened. Like, Nepo built up a beautiful late opening to middle game to this marvelous attack on the king side, only to throw it away like this. Boy. And yeah, he took on h5, took back, queen h5, and after d5, check d6. Yeah, there is nothing, absolutely nothing to be done. Bishop d5 is gonna come with discovered checks. Oh boy, this was absolutely a Hitchcock-worthy thriller of something else. So, ladies and gentlemen, did we score ourselves the most exciting last 2 rounds of a world championship in the past few decades? For sure. So I'm super excited to see what is coming next. It seems like the players just keep on delivering, and one surprise is trumped by the next. Lord knows what's gonna happen today. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheerio. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.